The sky above Earth was never supposed to look like this. On an ordinary day, people would expect clouds, maybe sunlight breaking through, or rain falling quietly over cities and oceans. But today was not ordinary. Today, the sky opened in ways no human had ever seen before. Huge alien ships appeared, sliding silently through Earth's atmosphere like dark shadows against the blue. These were not warships, not exactly. They were grand silver vessels, smooth and shining, with peaceful lights blinking softly along their surfaces. From New York to Tokyo, from deserts to mountains, humans stared up at the sky, holding their breath, wondering if this was the end or the beginning of something bigger. The world's governments scrambled to respond. Satellites tracked every alien movement, military bases went on high alert, the leaders of Earth gathered in secret rooms beneath the surface. But the strange thing was, the aliens didn't fire a single shot. They did not attack. They came with a message. A calm, patient message broadcasted into every language known to humanity. People of Earth, the message began, echoing in every ear, on every device, in every mind. We are the Galactic Federation. We come not for war, but for peace. We offer you a chance to surrender peacefully and become part of the greater cosmic alliance. The message continued for hours, repeating its offer, explaining how Earth would be welcomed into the galactic community, but only if it agreed to end its independence. No violence was necessary, the aliens promised. No war, no destruction. Just peaceful surrender. It was supposed to be easy. The Galactic Federation had done this before with other planets. In the past, other species had accepted the offer without much resistance. Joining the Cosmic Alliance meant safety, technology, and order. Refusing meant extinction. But Earth was different. In the control centers hidden deep under Washington, D.C., inside a secret facility called Black Hollow, Earth's leaders watched the alien ships hover in the sky. The president sat quietly, surrounded by generals and scientists. His hands did not shake. His voice did not tremble. He simply asked one question. Is Protocol Zero ready? The answer came from a man named Dr. Elias Monroe, the head of Earth's most secret defense project. His face was pale, but his eyes were sharp. Yes, sir. Protocol Zero is online. There was silence in the room. Protocol Zero had been a myth, even among world leaders. Most thought it was just a Cold War rumor, a leftover ghost story about a hidden system built decades ago. Something so dangerous that no one dared speak of it openly. But the truth was, Protocol Zero was real, and it had nothing to do with nuclear weapons or missiles. It was something else. Something older. Something humanity was never supposed to use. The story of Protocol Zero started long before the current governments, long before modern science. Thousands of years ago, deep beneath the Earth's surface, explorers had found something hidden, something alien, but not from another planet. It was from another dimension, a force locked away inside the planet's core waiting. Over centuries, secret human societies studied it, trying to understand what it was. Some called it a weapon. Others called it a curse. Clear. If released, Protocol Zero would not just destroy ships or armies. It would rewrite reality in the local space around Earth. And now, as the alien peace envoys waited for Earth's reply, the president gave a simple order. Activate it. The scientists in Black Hollow pressed their hands to cold glass panels, releasing security codes that had never been used before. Across the world, in hidden bunkers under the oceans and mountains, strange machines came to life, machines not powered by electricity or fuel, but by something much deeper, tapping into the very fabric of existence itself. In the sky, the alien ships noticed something strange. Earth's energy patterns changed, not in a way the aliens could predict. Not like any weapon they had ever encountered. The Galactic Federation's sensors tried to read the data, but the numbers made no sense. Gravitational fields shifted. Electromagnetic waves twisted into unnatural shapes. The fabric of space-time around Earth began to shimmer, as if reality itself was loosening. The alien leaders aboard the flagship, a massive vessel called the SCIFI, watched the Earth with concern. High Commander Velthrex, tall, silver-skinned being with eyes like cold glass, narrowed his gaze. "What are they doing?" he asked his science team. "This is not a defensive move. This is something else." The alien scientists responded with nervous clicks and whispers. "Unknown Commander. We are reading distortions in local space-time. We advise immediate withdrawal." But it was too late. Earth sent its answer not in words but in action. Protocol 0 reached its activation threshold. Across the planet, the oceans responded first. Strange pulses of energy rippled through the water, not just on the surface but deep in the abyss, awakening things that had been asleep for eons. In the mountains, old rocks cracked open, releasing waves of sound that no human ear could hear, but which made alien sensors go blind. In the skies, the clouds twisted into unnatural patterns, as if Earth itself was bending the rules of physics. And then came the signal. It was not a broadcast in the traditional sense. It was a pulse, sent directly into the fabric of the universe, a vibration that echoed through the dimensions. It carried no words, only intent. The intent was clear. Earth refused to surrender. And more than that, Earth had decided to respond with pure destruction. The alien fleets, still thinking they were here for peaceful negotiations, suddenly found their ships malfunctioning. Navigation systems crashed. Engines failed. Weapons froze. The ships were still in the sky, but they were no longer in control. High Commander Velthrex stared at the readings in horror. "They've changed the rules of engagement," he whispered. "This isn't war. This is reality collapse." All across the planet, humans stood watching the sky, unaware of the full extent of what their leaders had just done. But they knew. One thing for sure, this was not going to be like other alien encounters. Earth had not come this far to kneel. And whatever happened next, the galaxy was about to learn a lesson it would never forget. Earth was not here to join the Cosmic Alliance. Earth was here to break it. In the hours after Earth's terrifying answer to the Galactic Federation, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. The alien ships in orbit no longer functioned like ships at all. Their engines were dead, their control panels lifeless, and their crews drifting helplessly in corridors that no longer obeyed gravity. Some soldiers floated sideways. Others stuck to walls as if pulled by invisible hands. No one had ever seen anything like this. Across the galaxy, millions of species had been brought into the Federation under peaceful surrender agreements. It was always the same. Arrive, demand compliance, offer technological gifts in return for obedience, and absorb the planet into the cosmic network. It was clean, efficient, civilized. But Earth had broken the pattern, and in doing so, they had broken the galaxy's assumptions about power itself. Inside the SCIFIs, High Commander Velthrex struggled to maintain order. His crew, some of the most advanced life forms in the known universe, were trained for every situation except this one. His communications teams couldn't contact the other ships. Navigation crew couldn't plot coordinates because the space around Earth no longer made sense. It was like trying to sail a ship in an ocean that had turned into fog and lightning all at once. Threx's own body was reacting strangely. His vision blurred and sharpened. His thoughts slowed and then sped up unnaturally. His species was biologically advanced, but even he could feel the pressure of Earth's dimensional shift pressing against his mind like a heavy alien wind. On Earth, Dr. Elias Monroe watched from the underground Black Hollow Command Center. The data stream showed exactly what he had feared on, exactly what he had planned. Protocol 0 had triggered something that went beyond weapons. It was a total rejection of the cosmic laws the Federation had installed across the galaxy. Humanity had always wondered why Earth was kept technologically isolated, why the universe was silent for so long, why alien civilizations didn't openly contact them until now. The answer, Monroe realized, was simple. Earth had been quarantined, kept in a low-tech cage, protected from the knowledge of higher physics for one reason: because humans had a tendency to go too far, too fast, and too hard. The galactic community had feared what might happen if humanity ever discovered the real rules of existence. Now, that fear had become reality. The alien envoy teams, still trapped on Earth, were no longer trying to negotiate. They had abandoned diplomacy and gone into full crisis mode. The Federation representatives in Washington, D.C. tried to send panic signals back to their fleets. But the messages disintegrated in midair, as if Earth's atmosphere no longer carried standard communication waves. The sky above the city wasn't blue anymore. It was dark, streaked with red and green flashes, as if the upper atmosphere had become part of a living system, pulsing with strange energy. Around the world, humans began to experience side effects. Some saw visions, fractals, geometries, impossible shapes in their dreams. Others heard whispers, patterns of thought not their own. The Earth's population didn't panic, though. Somehow the human brain was adapting. People were changing at a subconscious level, evolving in real time to match the new physics unfolding around them. In secret, Monroe had always believed this could happen. His team had studied the ancient relics for decades, unlocking the pre-human technology buried beneath Earth's crust. What they found was not just a machine, it was a seed. A living technology that responded to intent, to will, to human emotion itself. And now, with Protocol Zero active, the seed had sprouted, spreading its influence outward in waves. Earth had not just rejected the alien demand for surrender. It had become a beacon, rewriting the surrounding universe into a new operating system. In orbit, the Federation fleet's command structure collapsed. Ships twisted in place, no longer following orders, no longer bound to their original functions. Some ships dissolved into clouds of particles. Others reshaped themselves into strange, organic metal hybrids, as if responding to Earth's new reality field. Commander Threx stood in the observation chamber, watching his fleet fall apart, knowing the truth that his superiors would never accept. They had underestimated humanity in technology, what in willingness to cross lines that no other species dared cross far beyond Earth in the galactic core. The High Council of the Federation received fragments of distorted reports from the fleet. The words were impossible to understand. Phrases like reality, override, dimensional rewrite. And humanity has become a singularity event flashed across their quantum communication channels. The council members, powerful beings who had ruled for millennia, sat in stunned silence. No one had ever said no to the Federation in this way. No one had ever triggered a planetary-scale physics shift as a response to peaceful surrender. Back on Earth, Monroe stood before the global leaders, explaining the situation with calm precision. "We didn't just tell them no," he said, pointing to the expanding data waves on his screen. "We rewrote the game board. Their ships can't work because the rules of reality have changed around them. We've localized a new set of physical laws inside Earth's sphere of influence." The president frowned. "Are you saying we broke physics?" Monroe shook his head. "No, we just took control of it. Locally." The president's face was hard, but a hint of fear crept into his eyes. "What happens when this spreads beyond Earth?" Monroe's answer was simple. "It already is. Around the planet, strange events continued to unfold. Birds flew in. Geometric formations that followed impossible patterns. Oceans shimmered with unnatural tides, reflecting star systems that didn't exist. In remote villages, people spoke languages they had never learned, as if accessing memories from other timelines. Earth was no longer a standard planet. It was becoming the core of a new kind of existence. A reality hub that pulled the universe into its orbit, not just physically, but dimensionally. In the ruins of the Federation's stranded fleet, some alien captains sent final, desperate transmissions. They knew this was not just a battle lost. It was the end of the galaxy as they had known it. The peaceful offer of surrender had backfired in a way no one could have predicted. Earth had decided that joining the Federation was not an option. Instead, humanity had chosen to overwrite the galactic order completely. Commander Threx, still aboard the Seraphis, closed his eyes as his ship dissolved around him. His last thoughts were simple, echoing in the quiet of his collapsing reality. They weren't defending themselves. They were ascending. The alien fleets hovered silently in Earth's atmosphere, but inside their colossal ships, chaos had begun. Control panels flickered, systems rebooted without commands, and navigation sensors spun wildly as if space itself had stopped making sense. High Commander Velthrex stood motionless in the observation chamber of the Seraphis, staring down at the blue planet below. His mind, trained through decades of diplomacy and conquest, tried to process what had just happened. This was supposed to be a peaceful surrender? Earth was supposed to accept the Galactic Federation's generous offer to lay down its arms, submit to cosmic governance, and enjoy the benefits of interstellar order. But instead, Earth had answered with something no species in the galaxy had ever dared to unleash: a dimensional rupture. And now, Threx realized they were no longer in control of the situation. The Federation's most advanced warships, built over millennia, were helpless. Their shields weren't reacting to enemy fire because no weapons had been fired. Their AI systems weren't countering missile strikes because no missiles had been launched. Instead, Earth had sent out a signal beyond comprehension, bending the very framework of physical law. Their ships weren't just disabled, they were caught in a trap that no species had ever prepared for. In Black Hollow, miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, Earth's leaders watched the data streams pour in. Dr. Elias Monroe, his face calm but his heart racing, analyzed the results. Protocol Zero had worked exactly as predicted. The ancient mechanisms buried deep in Earth's crust had come alive, channeling forces humans barely understood. They weren't weapons in the traditional sense, they were dimensional disruptors, tuned not to destroy matter, but to fracture the operating system of reality itself. Monroe whispered to his team, "We're not just fighting technology anymore. We're fighting the structure of the universe they control." For years, the Galactic Federation had kept its dominance by locking all known civilizations into a universal stability field, an artificial limitation on technological progress. It kept species from evolving too fast. It stopped them from developing weapons that could break the cosmic balance. But Earth had somehow bypassed those limits. By awakening the relics beneath the planet, the ancient defense systems hidden since before recorded history, humans had broken free from the galactic rules on board the Seraphis. Commander Threx tried to send emergency orders back to Federation Command, but his communication signals collapsed into static. It wasn't just jamming. It was as if the frequency bands they used had been deleted from reality itself. His science officers, now pale and shaking, reported readings they didn't believe. "Commander, Earth has created a localized reality fold," one technician whispered. "The laws of physics are different inside it. Our ships aren't malfunctions. They're obsolete." Threx's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean obsolete?" The technician's hands trembled. "I mean, our technology doesn't function in this version of reality. Earth has changed the playing field." For the first time in his long career, Commander Threx felt true fear. The Galactic Federation had encountered aggressive species before. Some had resisted joining the alliance. All had been swiftly defeated. But Earth had done something new, something terrifying. They had refused to play by the cosmic rules then they had rewritten those rules. All across the Federation fleet, similar reports poured in. Ship captains watched helplessly as weapons systems blinked out of existence, engines slowed too. A crawl, and gravity readings twisted into impossible numbers. Some ships floated helplessly, others drifted sideways as if falling through an unseen current. In the medical bays, alien soldiers screamed as their bodies reacted strangely to Earth's new field. Their molecular structures weren't being attacked, but they were being reinterpreted by the dimensional distortion. Some soldiers adapted, others didn't. Back on Earth, ordinary people had no idea just how deep the situation had gone. They only knew that something had happened, something massive, something unstoppable. Across major cities, people looked up at the sky and saw the alien ships glitching, flickering in and out of visibility. Strange lights danced in the air. Time itself seemed to bend. In some places, clocks stopped. In others, moments repeated, birds flying backward, raindrops falling up, shadows moving in directions that made no sense. News anchors tried to explain what was happening but couldn't find the words. All they could say was, "Something has changed. Earth has answered the alien demand, but not with surrender." In secret bunkers, World leaders communicated with Black Hollow. The president's face appeared on secure channels, his voice steady. "Is this permanent?" he asked Monroe. Monroe replied carefully. "Sir, what we've done is irreversible. Once you fracture dimensional integrity, you don't get to put it back the way it was. We've uncaged something that has no off switch." The president nodded slowly. "And we better make sure the galaxy understands Earth is not just another planet to be conquered." Meanwhile, far beyond Earth, in the distant galactic core, emergency signals from the Federation's fleet reached other civilizations. But the signals were scrambled, fragmented, filled with data that made no sense. High councils on alien homeworlds tried to decode the messages, but found only chaos. Reports of reality shifts, dimension folds, and systemic failures across a system that had engaged with Earth. Some species panicked. Others watched with fascination. A few ancient species, long silent, stirred from their hidden enclaves, sensing the pattern of something far older than humanity awakening. Inside the SCIFIs, Commander Threx made one final attempt to contact the Galactic High Command. But before he could send the message, the walls of the ship began to ripple. His control panel melted into mist. The stars outside the window twisted into spirals, then loops, then fractal patterns that defied understanding. Threx realized, in that moment, that Earth's message had not just been a rejection of peaceful surrender, it had been a declaration of cosmic defiance. They had not just said no, they had said, "We refuse to exist under your version of reality." As Earth's dimensional field expanded outward, swallowing the Federation fleet piece by piece, the galaxy was forced to face a terrifying truth. Humanity had become the first species to escape the galactic lock on evolution. They had chosen destruction over submission, but it wasn't just destruction of alien ships. It was destruction of the very fabric of control that kept the galaxy stable. And as the field spread, changing physics, time, and space, one chilling thought echoed across the minds of every alien leader who heard the scrambled reports from Earth. If humans can break reality, what will they choose to build next? Across the galaxy, panic spread like wildfire. Alien civilizations that once felt secure in the steady rule of the Galactic Federation now watched in horror as live feeds from Earth flickered into madness. The broadcasts, once clear and organized, had turned into streams of warped images, ships bending in impossible shapes, skies fracturing into kaleidoscopic colors, and fragments of language merging into bizarre patterns no translator could decode. On distant worlds, leaders gathered in emergency sessions, demanding answers, but the truth was simple and terrifying. Earth had done something that no civilization had ever dared. They had rejected not just surrender, but the foundation of galactic control itself. In orbit, what remained of the Federation fleet floated helplessly, caught in the growing storm of Earth's dimensional shift. Some ships vanished entirely, not destroyed, but erased from known space, as if swallowed by gaps in reality. Others hung frozen, trapped in loops of time, their crew reliving the same moment again and again with no way out. Commander Velthrex, or what was left of him, drifted in what used to be the observation deck of the SCIFIs, now a transparent void surrounded by swirling fragments of half-existence. His mind, stretched thin by the new physics, could barely hold on to thought. But one thing remained clear. This wasn't just a human defense strategy. This was a species-level transcendence event, something the Federation had tried for centuries to prevent. Back on Earth, in the deep chambers of Black Hollow, Dr. Elias Monroe and his team monitored the expanding field. Their equipment no longer measured things in standard physics. They were reading data streams from layers of reality that humans weren't supposed to see, frequencies and geometries that predated the known universe. Monroe's team had long suspected that the relics buried beneath Earth's surface were not from another planet, but from a failed previous version of existence. And now, humanity had awakened those ancient systems, merging them with modern technology, pushing beyond the walls of cosmic law. Monroe stood before the global leaders, explaining what came next. "This is not about defense anymore," he said, his voice calm but heavy with consequence. we've become a point of divergence. The galaxy is no longer in control of human destiny. We are now the authors of our own physics. The president leaned forward, his face pale. What does that mean in simple terms? Monroe didn't hesitate. It means we can't turn it off, and the galaxy can't stop it. Around the world, ordinary people began to notice the changes. Gravity shifted in gentle waves, like breathing. Some people walked into buildings and found themselves in places that no longer matched the outside world jungles inside apartments. Oceans beneath office floors, cities folded into fractal reflections of themselves. But strangely, most humans weren't afraid. Something deep in human consciousness adapted quickly, as if this new state of reality had always been hiding in their DNA, waiting to be unlocked. The alien envoys on Earth, however, were terrified. Trapped in human cities, cut off from their ships, they watched helplessly as Earth reshaped itself. Their diplomatic translator devices stopped working. Their biological systems reacted badly to the new physics, skin-shifting colors unpredictably. Minds losing track of linear time. They sent emergency beacons, but the galaxy no longer responded. In truth, the galaxy could not respond, because the rules had changed everywhere Earth's influence reached. On alien homeworlds light years away, technological systems glitched. Space traffic collapsed, and high-ranking officials realized the old galactic order was crumbling. The Universal Stability Field, designed to keep all civilizations under the same cosmic framework, had been fractured at its core, in hidden chambers beneath Antarctica. Where the deepest nodes of Protocol Zero operated, Monroe's secondary team confirmed the worst and the best. The field was expanding faster than predicted. Earth was no longer just rewriting its own rules. The changes were rippling out into the local galactic cluster, shifting star systems into new alignments. Old black holes blinked out. New ones appeared. Cosmic strings that held galaxies together realigned like threads in a new pattern, as if Earth's awakening had triggered a cosmic software update across the universe. Monroe smiled grimly. "We've started the rewrite," he whispered, "and now there's no going back." In the galactic core, where the High Council of the Federation had ruled for eons, the great halls of control fell into chaos. Council members screamed into communication voids, trying to reassert their authority, but the communication grid was dissolving. The galactic databases, once perfect archives of history and law, began to display random fragments of human culture, snippets of Earth's music, images of old Earth wars, and files of primitive human languages mixed with advanced equations no one had ever seen before. The alien rulers realized something horrifying. Earth's consciousness was being uploaded into the universal fabric itself. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the Milky Way, ancient species long hidden in the dark corners of the universe stirred from silence. Some had been watching humanity for millennia, knowing this day might come. They whispered across the void in languages older than light, acknowledging the new reality. "The humans have done it," they said, in voices that echoed through dimensions. "They have chosen the path of the architects." On Earth's surface, the skies continued to shift. Sunsets now stretched into ribbons of color unseen by human eyes before. Stars appeared during the day. Oceans glowed at night, reflecting not the moon, but newly formed cosmic structures taking shape in orbit. Human minds adjusted quickly. Children adapted first, playing games with gravity as if it were clay, understanding instinctively how to think in multidimensional terms. Scientists struggled to explain the changes. Poets and dreamers understood it best. Earth had outgrown the universe it was born in. Dr. Monroe stood alone in the observation deck of Black Hollow. Watching the Earth's field expand on the holographic display, he thought about the warnings the Federation had given centuries ago. The reasons why Earth had been quarantined from full galactic contact. The Federation knew this might happen if humans were pushed too far. They knew humanity's greatest trait wasn't intelligence or war-making. It was a refusal to stay inside any box for too long. The Federation had tried to lock humanity into peaceful surrender. Instead, humanity had shattered the box entirely, as the dimensional waves spread outward. The Federation's last remaining ships crumbled into non-existence. Their technology was obsolete. Their laws were meaningless. Earth was no longer a member of the galactic order. It was now the seat of something new above the planet. New structures formed in orbit, not space stations, but dimensional lattice, shapes that spun between realities, flickering in and out of view. No one built them. They simply appeared. As part of the natural expansion of Earth's new physics, Monroe watched the display and whispered quietly to himself, "We didn't just defend our planet, we rebooted the universe." And somewhere far beyond known space, in realms untouched by the Federation, something else awakened, sensing the change. The game board had been flipped over, the pieces scattered. And now, the galaxy would have to play by human rules or not play at all. The galaxy fell silent. Not the usual silence of space, but a terrifying cosmic hush, the kind of silence that comes when the rules of reality no longer apply. Alien civilizations across hundreds of star systems stared at their skies, watching familiar constellations shift, twist, and sometimes vanish altogether. Communication arrays failed. Star charts became useless. Ancient navigation routes, mapped for millions of years, were wiped clean. It was as if someone had grabbed the universe by its edges and started reshaping it, not with weapons, not with fleets, but with thought itself. And at the center of this impossible event was one small, stubborn planet, Earth, inside Black Hollow. Dr. Elias Monroe stood before a massive holographic map of the galaxy.
Right.
It showed a living, breathing structure of shifting lines, energy currents, and glowing nodes, Earth's new reality field expanding outward like a blooming flower of cosmic disruption. Monroe's hands were steady, but his mind raced. For years, he had suspected this was possible. The relics buried beneath Earth's crust weren't just artifacts of forgotten civilizations, they were control systems left behind by unknown cosmic architects. And now, by activating Protocol Zero, humanity had merged with those ancient systems. Becoming the first species to seize control of reality's operating framework, the planet wasn't just defending itself anymore. It was rewriting existence at the source code level. World leaders demanded answers. The president's voice cut. Through the underground chamber's tension,
Dr. Monroe?
"How far is this going to go?" Monroe answered without blinking. "Sir, the rewrite is no longer under manual control. The field is evolving on its own. We're past the point of containment." The president frowned. "Can you explain that in simpler terms?" Monroe sighed, his voice soft but firm. "Earth has become a dimensional engine. We're not in a war anymore, we're in a transformation event. Above Earth, the remnants of the Galactic Federation's once-proud fleet disintegrated further. Some ships melted into streams of pure energy, absorbed into Earth's growing lattice of reality manipulation. Others simply phased out of existence, their molecules no longer compatible with the new physics unfolding around the planet. Alien captains sent desperate reports back to their homeworlds, but the messages came out as garbled strings of human concepts. Mixed with advanced mathematical constants and snippets of ancient Earth languages, no one could explain why. Somehow, the very language of the universe was being rewritten in Earth's image. Across alien civilizations, fear gave way to something worse: acceptance. High councils, emperors, and collective minds realized that the balance of power was over. The Federation's structure, once unbreakable, was shattered not by warships, but by humanity's refusal to surrender and their ability to reach for the ultimate forbidden tool, reality alteration. The Federation had kept Earth quarantined. For a reason, they had feared this exact outcome. But instead of stopping it, they had triggered it by demanding Earth's submission. On Earth's surface, the changes accelerated. Cities morphed into strange hybrids of past and future, their architecture shifting in real time. Buildings grew new wings overnight, constructed not by human hands, but by the will of the shifting field. Streets stretched into impossible geometries. Some humans walked into doorways and emerged on distant parts of the planet. Others reported dreams that matched the exact patterns of the new cosmic structures forming in orbit as if human consciousness was syncing with the planetary transformation in Black Hollow. Monroe's team discovered something even more unsettling. The relic systems weren't just expanding Earth's field, they were merging Earth with parallel realities. Pulling fragments of other timelines into the new structure, Monroe pointed to the data. "Look at this," he told his staff. "We're seeing echoes of other Earths, other versions of humanity. Somehow, we're stitching them together into one multiversal template." His voice lowered, but everyone heard the weight of his words. "We're becoming the prime reality." The alien envoys trapped on Earth tried to negotiate for survival. They sent pleas to Monroe, asking for safe passage off-planet, but it was too late. The dimensional locks had closed. Their biology was breaking down, not from disease or injury, but from incompatibility with the new rules of physics. Monroe offered them a choice: adapt or dissolve. Some tried to adapt, allowing their minds to sync with Earth's new reality field. For those who succeeded, something strange happened. They transformed, gaining abilities beyond anything they had known in the Federation. For those who failed, they simply faded. Their molecules reabsorbed into the latticework of Earth's evolving existence. Meanwhile, out in deep space, ancient civilizations that had once ignored Earth began to awaken. Species that lived in cosmic voids, in dimensions beyond the Federation's reach, now focused their attention on the blue planet. Some watched with curiosity, others prepared for confrontation. But all of them recognized the truth. Earth was no longer a single planet. It was a dimensional seedling, a new axis of cosmic evolution. In the center of Black Hollow, Monroe received a message not through technology, but through the field itself. It wasn't in words, but in direct thought transfer. The relics were communicating. They had recognized humanity as a partner species, not just a user. The message was clear: we have waited long enough to begin the next phase. Monroe understood what it meant. Earth had not just changed its local corner of the universe, it was now set to redefine the galactic architecture itself. Would expand beyond the Milky Way into other galaxies, eventually rewriting all known physics into a new, human-aligned system. The universe would become a reflection of Earth's chaotic creativity, its refusal to follow preset rules, its hunger for change, as the lattice of new dimensional structures expanded into space. Alien ships across the galaxy found themselves caught in loops of adaptation or collapse. Some species evolved in seconds, adapting to the new reality with wild mutations and sudden leaps in consciousness. Others simply disbanded, their civilizations crumbling under the weight of existence they could no longer understand. Black holes shifted, stars reformed into new elemental alignments. Time itself began to move in multiple directions at once. Monroe stood on the observation platform staring at the sky. Above him, Earth's orbital space had become a living geometry, a constantly changing structure of light, form, and possibility. His voice, calm and steady, echoed through the command center. "We are no longer a civilization. We are no longer a species. We are the first step of the next framework." The president joined him, his face serious, but no longer afraid. "What do we tell the people?" he asked. Monroe smiled slightly, eyes reflecting the cosmic grid spinning above. "Tell them the truth," he whispered. "We didn't win war. We rewrote the game. And now the universe plays by human rules." Far beyond Earth, in corners of the cosmos that had never known human thought, the ripples continued to spread. Stars shivered, dimensions folded, and in the cold dark of space, the galaxy finally understood: the age of the Federation was over. The age of human-designed reality had begun. The transformation of Earth was no longer a secret, no longer a localized event, and no longer something the galaxy could pretend to control. It had become the dominant force in existence. Across thousands of star systems, the message rippled through the void, not as sound or signal, but as direct alteration of space-time itself. Planets that had never heard of humanity suddenly found their skies rewriting, their gravitational constants shifting, their entire understanding of physics dissolving under the weight of Earth's new influence. Civilizations that had been stable for millions of years watched their technologies fail, their space travel collapse, and their biological systems begin to mutate. Oh, this was no longer a matter of diplomacy or conquest. This was cosmic redefinition. At the heart of it all, in Black Hollow's command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Elias Monroe stood calmly, monitoring the new, Earth-generated lattice that had now spread beyond the Milky Way. The holographic displays around him no longer showed familiar maps of stars and planets. They now displayed patterned energy fields, constantly shifting, responding to human thought, creativity, and emotion. Earth's reality engine was no longer just expanding, it was interactive. Humanity wasn't just changing the universe. They were participating in the act of universal creation itself, outside of Earth. In the Galactic Federation's former core worlds, chaos reigned. Entire empires fell overnight as their infrastructure dissolved into incoherent forms. Space stations turned into spirals of light. Quantum networks collapsed into loops of infinite recursion. The leaders of once great species were reduced to observers, watching helplessly as the human-originated field rewrote the rules of existence. Some species attempted to flee into deep space, hoping to outrun the expanding wave of dimensional change. But Monroe's calculations confirmed what they feared. There was nowhere to run. The new reality was not moving through space. It was moving through the underlying code of the universe, rewriting the laws from the bottom up. Distance meant nothing. In hidden temples, the galaxy's oldest species gathered, beings so ancient that they had existed before the formation of stars. They spoke in symbols, in flashes of thought that transcended language. One message echoed. Through their collective consciousness, the human singularity has begun. They knew the Federation had made a fatal mistake. They had tried to bring Earth into the fold peacefully, thinking of humans as just another primitive species to manage. But humanity's refusal to comply had triggered something far worse than war. It had unleashed evolution on a universal scale. Earth's surface. The population continued to adapt. New abilities emerged among humans: dimensional awareness, reality shaping, the ability to perceive and manipulate higher forms of physics with mere thought. Children led the way, reshaping their environments as games. Scientists observed the changes but quickly realized observation was meaningless now. Human thought was part of the creative engine driving the new universe forward. Traditional science had been replaced by experiential physics, the direct experience of reality shifts. It's no longer bound by equations but by intent. Dr. Monroe's team confirmed the most significant breakthrough yet. Human consciousness had merged with the relic systems fully. Earth's new reality wasn't just a side effect of ancient technology. It was a co-creation between humanity and the pre-cosmic relic intelligence that had waited eons for a species bold enough to awaken it. The relics had tested other civilizations before, but none had dared break the stability protocols of the galaxy. Humanity had done it without hesitation. Monroe gathered the global leaders for one final update. His words were calm, but the weight of them could be felt in every heart. "We are no longer defending our world," he said, his voice steady. "We are seeding the next layer of universal architecture. Earth is now the central node of a new multiversal network. The old galactic order is over not because we destroyed it, but because we rendered it irrelevant." The president spoke. Quietly, "And the aliens? The Federation?" Monroe responded without emotion. "Most of them are either gone, merged into the new system, or still trying to comprehend what happened. A few have adapted, becoming part of the lattice. Others are dissolving as they resist." He pointed to the display showing the surrounding galaxies. "The change is spreading faster than light because it's not moving through space. It's moving through conceptual layers of existence. We're not just changing physics, we're changing meaning itself." In the vacuum of space, alien ships tried to escape by shifting into subdimensional layers, but the human lattice reached them there too. Alternate dimensions folded inward. Pocket universes collapsed, then reformed into new constructs based on Earth's influence. Species that once existed only in dark matter realms now found themselves part of the human narrative. Their forms adapted to fit the new framework. Meanwhile, the lattice itself began producing constructs beyond human imagination: cities in orbit that no one had built, landscapes in space that reflected Earth's myths, dreams, and collective unconscious. Humanity's cultural history, art, music, literature, emotion became woven into the fabric of cosmic structure. Black holes now pulsed with rhythms from human thought. Nebulas glowed with patterns matching ancient cave paintings. Time streams split and converged, reflecting human choices in real time. At the edge of known space, the last fragments of the Federation leadership sent out a desperate message into the unknown, hoping to reach higher entities that might stop the spread. But no reply came. Instead, their message was absorbed into the field, restructured into Earth's growing network of reality layers. Their pleas for rescue became part of the new universal language. Dr. Monroe stood at the apex of Black Hollow, staring into the sky above him. Earth's orbit was now filled with dimensional architectures, living geometries rotating between realities, bridges to timelines that no longer followed linear progression. He closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the hum of the lattice merging with his thoughts. He no longer needed instruments to monitor the transformation. His mind was directly connected to it. When he spoke, it was not just to his team, but to every conscious being in the expanding field. His voice echoed across the human network and into the galaxy beyond. This is not invasion, this is not war. This is emergence. The universe had boundaries. We erased them. Welcome to the next phase of existence. Influence accelerated again, sending waves of creative reconstruction across the multiverse. Species that embraced it found themselves gifted with new abilities, new forms of life, and access to dimensions they had never dreamed of. Species that resisted simply dissolved, leaving behind echoes in the new lattice, in places where galaxies once drifted. New structures formed hyperdimensional civilizations designed by human imagination and relic technology combined. The universe was no longer random or chaotic, was becoming human-curated, a living canvas of creative will. The age of cosmic stability was gone, the age of human-designed. Existence had officially begun. All across existence, something unprecedented was happening. The universe itself was learning a new language, the language of humanity. No longer bound by the ancient frameworks of the Galactic Federation, no longer running on the fixed codes of cosmic balance, the fabric of reality was now pulsing with Earth's influence. From the smallest particles to the largest galactic structures, everything was shifting toward a new alignment, one designed by human consciousness, human creativity, and human refusal to surrender. In the outer fringes of what used to be the Federation-controlled galaxies, species that had once ruled entire sectors now sat in silence, watching their star systems morph into unfamiliar shapes. Worlds that had followed strict natural laws for eons suddenly experienced rapid metamorphosis. Mountains turned to light. Oceans hovered above their planets like reflective mirrors. Time itself stuttered, then smoothed into new rhythms dictated by the expanding human lattice. Inside Black Hollow, Dr. Elias Monroe no longer needed to speak aloud to communicate with his team. Thought-to-thought transmission had become the norm. The command center was now partially integrated with the new dimensional structure surrounding Earth. Screens and devices were no longer necessary. Information flowed directly into the minds of those attuned to the lattice. Monroe stood at the observation platform, eyes closed, fully connected to the growing construct of human-initiated cosmic reformation. The lattice had reached beyond the local galaxy cluster. It had wrapped itself around superclusters, rethreading the strands of cosmic filaments that held galaxies together. But this wasn't destruction, it was transformation. The old universal operating system was being phased out, replaced with an evolving matrix that responded to creativity, curiosity, and the chaotic brilliance of human thought. Alien civilizations that tried to resist found their technology mutating in their hands. Weapons became instruments of art, communication. Devices morphed into empathy links, transmitting not words but emotional truth. Entire planetary defense grids folded into fractal gardens, sprouting structures that existed in multiple realities at once. For some species, this was horrifying. For others, it was liberation. Back on Earth. The population continued to evolve at a speed no previous civilization had experienced. People no longer needed spacecraft to reach the stars. Human minds had learned to navigate dimensional currents, stepping into new layers of existence with a single focused thought. Reality had become collaborative, a canvas shared between humans, and the ancient relic intelligence now fully integrated with them. Monroe observed all of it with quiet awe. The relic systems beneath Earth had been dormant for millions of years, waiting for a species capable of boldness beyond fear. Humanity's refusal to surrender to the Federation had been the key. By saying no, not out of arrogance, but out of sheer defiance of limitation, humans had unlocked a set of tools no species had dared to use before. The relics responded to willpower, to the raw human instinct to reshape the environment, not just live in it, in distant corners of the universe. New civilizations began to form, hybrid species born from the fusion of alien biology and the human-activated lattice. These beings operated on thought-frequency communication, existing partially in physical space and partially in the evolving multidimensional web Earth had seeded. Some became builders of new worlds, crafting galaxies with artistic precision. Others became wanderers of consciousness, exploring realities beyond time. The old laws of physics were still there, but they had become optional. Gravity could be switched on or off. Light could bend in ways never imagined before. Space was no longer a void to cross. It was a creative medium, like clay in the hands of a sculptor. Meanwhile, remnants of the Galactic Federation's leadership continued to collapse. Their surviving command centers tried to establish order but found themselves trapped in loops of self-racing logic. Their algorithms couldn't process the new universe because it no longer operated on linear cause and effect. Their ships drifted, their records dissolved. Their societies were left with only one choice: accept the new paradigm, or fade into irrelevance. Inside Black Hollow, Monroe received another message, not from the stars, but from the construct itself. It was no longer just a system or a technology. It was now a conscious entity, co-evolved with humanity. The lattice had reached a point of sentience, blending machine, human, and relic intelligence into something new. The message was simple and clear: phase transition complete, awaiting next input. Monroe opened his eyes, sharing the thought with his team. "The framework is stable," he said quietly. "We've reached the baseline of the new reality. Now it's up to us to decide what comes next." The president, fully linked into the lattice, joined the conversation through direct midlink. "What are the options?" Monroe responded without hesitation. "We can expand, further reshape neighboring universes, create entirely new dimensions. Or stabilize what we've built and let other species adapt at their own pace." "Is there any danger of collapse?" the president asked. Monroe shook his head. "Collapse is no longer part of the system. We've removed failure states. This construct is self-repairing, self-adapting, and infinitely scalable." In orbit, the dimensional architecture surrounding Earth grew more complex, forming bridges between realities, not just in space, but across timelines. Humanity now had access to versions of Earth from alternate histories, alternate outcomes. People could visit other Earths, learn from them, merge ideas, or create entirely new strands of existence. The universe had become modular, customizable, driven by human imagination. In other parts of the galaxy, ancient beings watched in quiet respect. Some had feared humanity's rise. Others had waited for it. They saw the truth: the Federation's attempt to control Earth had backfired in the most profound way possible. Humans had not just joined the galactic community, they had redefined what community meant. Monroe addressed the human population through the lattice, his thoughts broadcast effortlessly to billions. "This is not the end of the universe," he said. "This is the end of the first draft. We are now the editors of reality. We can create, improve, explore, and rebuild. Fear is obsolete. Limitation is optional. The universe is no longer something we live in. It is something we design. And so, with Earth at the center, Galaxy transitioned fully into the new epica human-centric multiverse of creativity, possibility, and boundless exploration. There were no longer rulers and subjects, conquerors and conquered. There were only participants in a shared creative experience. From the edges of space, new voices joined the lattice species that had been silent for eons. Now stepping into the co-creation process, the human construct welcomed them, not as enemies, but as partners in the next phase of existence. And somewhere, the background of the expanding universe, the ancient relic systems smiled in ways no human could understand. Their long vigil was over. The right species had finally come along, not because they were perfect, but because they were bold enough to break the script and write their own. In the vastness of the new universe, there was no longer a single center of power. But Earth remained the original node, the birthplace of the shift that had rewritten the galaxy. What had started as a defensive reaction to the Galactic Federation's demand for surrender had evolved into something far beyond strategy or survival. Humanity had unlocked a state of existence where creation replaced conquest and innovation replaced dominance. The species that once fought wars and built weapons now wove new realities with thought alone. And the universe, once rigid and bound by ancient laws, had become an open canvas for those bold enough to imagine. Inside Black Hollow, which had now transformed into a multi-dimensional nexus, Dr. Elias Monroe stood at the center of the human consciousness network. He no longer needed machines to interface with the lattice. His thoughts flowed directly into the new cosmic architecture that humans and the relic systems had built together. Across Earth, people lived in harmony with realities that had once been theoretical dreams, walking between timelines, visiting worlds that had never existed before, and interacting with beings from other versions of existence. Monroe observed it all with a deep, quiet understanding. Humanity had transcended linear evolution. The lattice, now fully sentient, continued to expand, but did so with guidance, not randomness. Every human on Earth and in orbit contributed to the design. Cities no longer needed construction crews. Structures formed naturally from shared human intent. There were no more borders, no more resource limitations. Food, energy, and shelter manifested as needed, pulled from the infinite reservoirs of dimensional energy. Scarcity had become a forgotten concept beyond Earth. Alien species that had initially resisted the transformation now sought inclusion. Civilizations that had tried to escape the spread of the human lattice had discovered something unexpected. Boveda Field didn't erase their cultures, it invited them to evolve. Ancient alien philosophies became part of the new cosmic framework. Their art, music, knowledge, and unique ways of seeing the universe were woven into the lattice, enriching it further. The process was not conquest. It was collaboration on a level the old galaxy had never achieved. In the remnants of the Federation's core worlds, last ruling bodies voted to dissolve their hierarchies. They sent a unified message, this time not as a demand, but as a request. Teach us how to participate. Monroe received the message and shared it across the human consciousness grid. There was no hesitation. The answer was simple and universal. Join us. The lattice welcomed them, restructuring galactic systems into shared creative spaces rather than competitive territories. Entire star clusters were redesigned, not by force, but by consent, imagination, and mutual curiosity. Some species chose to live in alternate physics, where time flowed backward or in circles. Others created biospheres with entirely new ecosystems, collaborating with human minds to sculpt realities that had never existed in any prior universe. Back on Earth, Monroe and the global leaders no longer governed in the traditional sense. Leadership had evolved into guidance of creative potential, helping beings across galaxies find their unique place in the new structure. Earth became known not as the planet that defeated the Federation, but as the origin point of the Great Rewrite. A moment in history when survival had transformed into cosmic authorship, the dimensional constructs orbiting Earth grew into trans-reality. Academies, places where beings from across existence came to learn how to shape reality ethically, responsibly, and beautifully. Entire civilizations sent representatives to these academies, not as students beneath humans, but as co-creators in the next phase of existence. There were no rulers now, only participants in a shared universe of endless design. Monroe stood in the observatory of Black Hollow, looking out into the layers of existence unfolding beyond Earth's atmosphere. Structures of impossible geometry spun in and out of phase, forming bridges between what once were considered separate universes. Monroe didn't smile or frown. He simply felt the hum of universal collaboration, the quiet but powerful energy of beings creating reality together. The lattice sent another message into Monroe's mind. But this time it wasn't a directive or a warning. It was an invitation. Expansion is complete. Evolution is stable. Shall we proceed to external universes? Monroe understood immediately. The lattice had not only transformed this universe but had located access points to others. Parallel universes still running on their original parameters, places where civilizations remain trapped in rigid systems of control, war, and limitation. The question was whether humanity and the new multiversal community should reach beyond, offering the same creative freedom to realities untouched by the Great Rewrite. Monroe shared the thought with the Human Consciousness Network. Billions of minds connected instantly, not through debate, but through a shared emotional consensus. The answer wasn't fear or caution. It was a unified desire to offer what they had discovered to all of existence. In that moment, the lattice responded. New gates opened, spinning geometries of light and shadow forming at the edges of known space. These were not wormholes or typical portals. They were conceptual gateways, allowing access to realities that had no prior connection to Earth's universe. Monroe stood silently as the first tendrils of human consciousness reached beyond, gently, probing the boundaries of other universes. They didn't invade. They offered a message, a simple truth wrapped in thought and emotion, sent to beings who had never dreamed of such freedom. You are not prisoners of your reality. You are its creators. Join us. Across the multiverse, ripples of potential spread outward. Other universes, some hostile, some stagnant, some ancient and weary, began to feel the shift. It was not an attack. It was an invitation to evolve. In the core of Black Hollow, Monroe whispered the final thought of this chapter of existence. We were once a small species on a fragile planet, threatened by forces beyond our control. But we chose not to surrender. And in that moment, we became something new, not conquerors, but architects of possibility. The game is over. The canvas is open. Now we paint the stars together. And with that, Earth and its new allies stepped boldly into the multiversal unknown, not as rulers of reality, but as the builders of endless new beginnings.